Here's to the finest crew in Starfleet.
When it comes to my crew, you won't get any argument from me.
This is a parody. Paramount owns the song.
Welcome to The Greatest Generation. It's a Star Trek podcast by a couple of guys who are just a little bit embarrassed about having a Star Trek podcast. I'm Ben Harrison.
I'm Adam Pranica. I'm in pain, Ben.
Oh, fuck.
I think I've got a sciatica thing.
Oh, yeah? You got back pain.
Low back into the leg. I'm famously a standing podcaster.
Right.
I'm wondering if I need to start sitting down because I do all my work standing up. Maybe I've gone the other way with it because you've heard basically the worst thing a human being can do is sit at a desk for any amount of time.
Right.
I've gone the other direction. Maybe
you stood too much.
The second worst thing you can do is stand.
I've had some back pain lately too. You know how I did that reverse somersault when we did our Sub Rosa show in Madison?
I will never forget that, Ben.
I don't know if this is related, but no joke. I had a bloody nose the next day.
Oh, what's wrong with Ben this time? I mean, rusty pipes for you. I mean, when we're out on tour, that'll happen.
Oh, yeah, get a little bit of an after party. No. But
hey, any show that Raz and Plavim go to, you can expect the party favors to come out.
I can't feel my face.
And then I was having that thing where you blow your nose in the morning and it's brown because there's dried blood somewhere. I think I've been internally bleeding since I did that. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, maybe get that checked out. I don't know. Or not. I mean...
Or not, I don't want to have to explain why I'm like this.
I might just try to convince you to stay out of the medical facilities in your life. Don't see the doctors that you typically see. Stay away.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like it's doing me any good.
No. More harm than good.
You know what I think might make me feel a little bit better, Adam? The Lord.
Oh, God.
It's good to see you all in church.
It's called the Bible.
That's the way God wants it. I don't know why, dude.
All these questions? Is a little blind faith too much to ask?
A piece of the world not with you, Ben.
Piece of my back not in the right place anymore, apparently.
I'm going to do some leg stretches while you're reading the Star Trek Enterprise show Bible to us.
I've been really wanting to read the entry about T'Pol, who is referred to as T'Pau in the Bible. Mm-hmm. And so I think I'm just going to cut right to that.
Do it.
If you don't mind. Sub-Commander T'Pau, Vulcan female, austere, but sensual. She's the science officer assigned
Fuck that. She's beautiful, but she doesn't know it.
She's hot, but in a very approachable way.
You know, if someone just bet that they couldn't take her to the ship dance, zhuzh her up a little bit, the turbo lift slowly descends into the mess hall. Is that T'Pol?
Oh my God.
Holy shit, she cleans up well.
She's the science officer assigned to oversee our progress. In exchange for star charts and tactical information, the Vulcans insisted we include one of their officers on the Enterprise. Starfleet Command reluctantly agreed. Not everyone is happy with this addition to the crew. Why do we need a Vulcan watching over us like we're children? T'Pau isn't thrilled with this assignment either. She was hoping for a Vulcan commission. The last thing she expected was to be living among a primitive, irrational species, but she's resigned to this hardship post because she had no choice. She's not comfortable around the crew or the emotions they display.
Or their many smells.
Yeah. I'm curious to see if there will be mentions of the smells. Secretly, however, she will begin to envy humans. Now that she lives among them, she can't help but develop a fascination with their cultures. In private, she likes to sample their food and catalog their behavior. She even studies their mating customs.
Ooh.
T'Pau has a grudging respect for Captain Archer, who has proven to her that humanity has the potential to exceed its limitations. She simply doesn't understand Spike, however. She finds that he embodies all the baser instincts humanity has to offer.
I don't understand Spike either. Totally inscrutable is Spike.
T'Pau gravitates toward Dr. Phlox as a fellow outsider. He's the only one she can confide in about her experiences among humans. The two of them will often debate humanity and its foibles. At one point, he'll give her a nasal numbing agent. She can't stand the smell of humans when they're anxious. Specifically anxious. She would hate me.
I mean, there's the smell of your own sweat when you're working out, and then there's like the anxiety sweat that is so fucking gross.
Everyone loves their own brand.
Yuck.
She's older than everyone on board, but she won't reveal how old. Hoshi is always asking her about her age. T'Pau, in human years or Vulcan years. A special note to fans of the original Star Trek series: in the episode Amok Time, a powerful ancient Vulcan woman named T'Pau will share a great adventure with James T. Kirk. Could this be the same Vulcan? Perhaps. So what's up with that? Why did they change? They didn't want this to be in the continuity with Kirk or something?
Guess not.
I am fascinated. I feel I'm really not into doing research, but I kind of want to research what happened there.
Yeah, I wonder.
We had the credited screenwriter of this episode, Chris Black, was on The Greatest Discovery years and years ago, back in the day when I was still living in Echo Park. I wonder if you would know. I think he started on season 2 or like late in season 1 on this show, but he worked on Severance. He's like still in the game. He's still doing big TV shows.
How about that?
Yeah.
It is possible to have a successful career in Hollywood. Amazing. I mean, I'm hearing this description of who we know as T'Pau. And it's a very short list, Ben, but I'm thinking of my favorite female characters on Star Trek. And by that, I don't mean like Beverly Crusher, Deanna Troi, Catherine Janeway, like the ones that are obviously great characters. I'm thinking about like K'Ehleyr. K'Ehleyr is one of my favorite characters in Star Trek. And one of the things about K'Ehleyr, I think, is that like she's sexualized in a way that is only like for Worf, kind of.
Right.
And not for everyone's leering gaze.
Right. You got to be a Chadich to hit this.
And that's kind of like the...
Not a Chadich. What? Parmakai. God, fuck.
The difference that I crave with T'Pau is that kind of thing. Like, I feel like a lecherous creep watching this show when they put her in a tank top and lube her up and stuff. Like, she's super hot, and I like looking at hot women. But, like, it's
done in a way that feels like you're looking through a hole in the wall in the girls' locker room in this show.
That is what it feels like, and that part of it is too bad. It doesn't have to be this way.
It really doesn't. This episode, man. We should get into it.
This episode's big fun. Yeah, why not? Why not start telling the story about an episode that tells another story? It's Star Trek Enterprise Season 2, Episode 2. It's called Carbon Crick.
T'Pau is going to party today. She's going to have an ounce and a half of red wine at dinner with Archer and Trip. We got something to celebrate, Adam.
1-year anniversary. It seems significant, especially for how many times they almost didn't make it this far as a crew or a ship.
Yeah, I mean, as recently as last week, they were fighting for their very existence as a thing.
They bust out the tablecloths for this dinner. It's not just dinner in the captain's mess. It's wine glasses and something a little special for the occasion, and that's neat to see.
What the fuck is wrong with Archer bringing up performance review at a celebratory event?
Just a formality.
I understand.
Even if your performance review is good, nobody wants to fucking hear about it when they're trying to chill.
The thing that I've always resented in my career having jobs that aren't Star Trek podcaster is that review time only goes in one direction in my experience.
Yeah.
That managers review subordinates, and yet a subordinate can't review a manager so that a manager's manager can know how they're doing.
Right.
That seems like total bullshit to me.
Yeah, it really does.
And that's what's going on here. Like, they're like, oh, T'Pol, it's review time because it's your once a year anniversary. And like, you look at T'Pol and she's like, God, if only I could review these clowns. I guess she gets to when she does a report back to the Vulcan command. But
she's evaluating them too.
But it's like, I bet Admiral Forrest and that group of idiots would appreciate like her report on Captain Archer.
Was that commander that was hanging around with them?
Yeah.
Where did that guy come from? What's his job?
A guy who's only shot in profile. Yeah.
What a jawline. Anyways, they're like, hey, so like we were looking back at like your curriculum vitae, and at one point you left the Vulcan installation there in Sausalito, traveled around and went to a old mining town in Pennsylvania. Why'd you go to an old mining town in Pennsylvania? She's like, that is because I was curious about the site of first contact between Vulcans and humans. And they're like, no. We've all seen first contact. We know where it is. It's outside of Bozeman. She's like, no. There's a different first contact that's secret that you don't know about.
Do you know that there's a place in North America with an even higher concentration of women and money than Bozeman, Montana? It's Carbon Creek. T'Pol knows this.
It's rhetorical nonsense.
T'Pol says that her great-grandma was one of the first Vulcan visitors.
Yeah.
Who was at Carbon Creek, and that's why she went there. And if you're interested, I could tell y'all the story.
Are you interested, Adam?
Archer and Trip are like, hell fucking yeah. Story time with T'Pol?
They each pour themselves a few more glugs of red wine, tuck in.
Pop like 4 gummies.
The camera pans over and Raz and Plavim are there with a mirror with a bunch of rails on it.
T'Pol uses a fork and knife to cut through her gummy.
Under the circumstances, I'll allow myself a small indulgence.
Make mine a large indulgence.
So after the theme, we cut to Earth, 1957, and there's a Vulcan ship cruising toward the planet, and there's a Sputnik up there, and bangers getting dropped on this Vulcan ship, and it is a real emergency, an emergency that necessitates an emergency landing. And T'Pol's great-grandma is played by Jolene Blalock, so you know which one is her.
So this is Tamir, and they have some problem with the ship, and they have to make a crash landing. Thought the crash landing sequence was really good. The way, like we see the city lights of Earth as the pod is coming down, and then it like blows some trees around as it crashes. The captain of the Vulcan ship does not make it.
RSVP, that Vulcan.
Yeah. We cut right back to the captain's mess, and Archer and Trip are like, how have you guys not been telling us about this? And she's like, it's not actually a secret. The information is out there. You just didn't like ask anyone about it or like go look it up in the Vulcan library or whatever.
This is that Saval shit where like, yeah, I guess you didn't ask me what I knew about the Enterprise in trouble or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't love that, but she makes it clear that like this is not necessarily something that the Vulcans have hidden.
The incident is well documented at the Science Directorate and the Space Council.
We cut to the Vulcans like camping in the woods. They are 5 days past all of their rations, and they like blew in a emergency distress signal, but never got any indication that it was received. So they're not really sure how much time they're going to have to wait because they don't have a working radio, and they haven't eaten anything in 5 days. They think about eating some deers, but they quickly abandon that on the logic that they're not going to result to extreme barbarism just because there's a crisis and they have no nutrition in their systems.
T'Pol's in charge here with the captain being dead, and she's the one to put down the idea of murdering a deer and eating it. And Mistral's like, cool, well, if you're not going to let me murder a deer and eat it, I'm going to go into town and find something to eat there, which seems like an incredibly dark plan B in my mind.
Like, you get one taste of delicious, delicious human meat. None of this stuff ever satisfies you ever again.
Let's talk a little bit about how they look.
Yeah.
They are wearing brown leather from head to toe.
Yeah.
And it was very exciting to me to think about what these two folks are going to look like sauntering into an old mining town or whatever in head to toe brown leather.
Rebels without a cause.
Yeah.
They do get to like kind of get the lay of the land a little bit before anyone notices them. And they're seeing miners off to work the pits. They're like, okay, like we do kind of stand out based on the way the rest of these people look. So we're going to have to steal some clothes. And I thought this was a nice callback to that Kirk and Spock Back in Time episode where the beanie cap went on the head of Mistral to hide his ears.
Yeah, that was neat. This episode was shot in Crestline, California, which isn't far from Lake Arrowhead. It had real Lake Arrowhead vibes to me.
It really did, yeah.
Being up there.
A totally insane sequence when they're stealing the clothes, though, because they do the like sexy lady casting a shadow on a bedsheet effect, and it is like so revealing. It's like
it is so important that you show nipples in this scene.
They like almost should have tiled that out, I feel like.
Just an incredibly horny moment right here. I got the bends because like the establishing Carbon Creek footage is like real Michael Bay wankfest type stuff. Like this is an American town with American values.
This is what we stand to lose if the Japanese win.
Yeah.
Or if the Transformers or whatever, doesn't really matter which film.
Tamir puts her dress on backwards, which just necessitates another duck behind the bedsheet.
Yeah.
To do her thing. Got to get 2 bites of that apple, right?
Mm, yeah, I'm surprised they didn't rule of threes this, honestly.
So with the new costumes on, they walk into town making their little observations about what they see, and they're fairly withering about how these people somehow launched a satellite. These fucking clowns. Yeah. Amazing.
I mean, they came to town for one thing, to get something to eat, and they don't really know much about what's going on here, so they find a bar and go inside, but immediately notice that currency is being exchanged for goods and services, and they are not in possession of any currency.
One of the weirdest transitions that I've seen on a Star Trek episode in a long time is Tamir and Mistral standing there. Every head in the place turns to look at them, and we fade to black. And then the credits start, and that's the end of the episode. Amazing. But no, it fades back up, and what do you do when you're at a bar and you don't have money? You better fucking pray that there are like some free bar snacks, some pub mix.
Yeah.
Up on the bar, and that's what they get. They get past some bar pretzels.
Yeah, and the bartender is played by Ann Cusack, the third Cusack sibling, I guess.
She did not look familiar to me, like as a Cusack. Like the Cusack genes are fairly strong, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I did not read Cusack from the bartender.
She's been in a ton of shit. She was on that show, The Boys, that you like.
I do like The Boys.
I mean, like, I feel like if I went into a bar and I was like, what's free? They would be like, get the fuck out of here. But
I mean, they'd say that before you asked the question.
Yeah. Seriously. T'Pol gets free pretzels, and there's like a guy that, they have to lie about. I mean, I guess it's not really a lie. It's just an obfuscation when they say our vehicle broke down outside of town. There's a guy offering to give him a ride to a mechanic. But he also wants to play pool. And there's like hey, maybe we could get some money by playing pool with this guy conversation where Mistral is like, this is like the simplest fucking game I've ever seen.
I can defeat him.
You don't even know the rules.
It's simple.
So ordinarily, in order to gamble at a pool game, both parties need to have money to gamble with.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy's like, well, I mean, if you don't have money, you do have that foxy lady with you. How about some time with her?
You can gamble with two things: money or women.
You hear these people talk and you're like, is that just how everyone talked? All like affected Zephram Cochrane speech. This triggers a little bit of a like sotto voce kind of argument between Mistral and Tamir, because she's like, I don't want to fucking have a beer with this guy. He sucks. And Mistral's like, nah, this game is so easy a Vulcan baby could win it. Hitting pause here, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
What's the funniest outcome here for the pool game? Because you have a moment to think about what that could be. I thought it would be hilarious if Mistral got his ass absolutely kicked.
Yeah. So there's the tough break, right? And Billy, this guy, goes first, and he's good. Like, It's clear that he's quite a good pool player.
He goes on a run right away.
I thought it would have been really fun if Mistral had, if he'd finally like failed to sink one, and it was Mistral's turn, and he cracks his knuckle and steps up to the table and just immediately sinks the 8-ball. Because he doesn't know the rules, That
would be great. Or it's clear that Mistral is losing, and then we cut to the exterior, and what we hear is just Mistral taking the bar apart, like throwing people through windows. Could have been fun, but no, Mistral wins, and we cut to them leaving a grocery store with a couple bags full of groceries that they're able to purchase with their winnings.
And then we cut to them having established themselves in town to the extent that they have jobs.
There's a moment in this episode where they're like, well, we can't just gamble forever. And I was like, yes, you can. You really can. Because what if this episode turns into The Sting or the Cincinnati Kid or whatever?
Right.
That would be an amazing Star Trek episode.
Like a road trip, every pool hall and every backwater has some guy named Minnesota Tex. And
because it seems like Mistral and Tamir would be really good at that.
Yeah. She sits by the bar and solicits dates with guys, and she's like, you can take me to bed if you can beat my boyfriend at pool or something like that.
Yeah.
Have you seen me standing behind a bed sheet hanging on a drying line?
Yeah.
I'm really hot.
It seems like Tamir and Mistral are having all the fun. Strawn does not. I mean, I guess I should say Mistral gets a job in the coal mine. That's not fun.
Yeah.
But Strawn ends up cleaning hairballs out of a neighbor's pea trap. And that's a life he is excited not to live for any longer than possible.
Yeah. We are also reminded by this episode that this is the mid-50s, so lots of A-bomb testing going on, and this sort of casts a pall over a conversation at the bar where they're like, man, sure hope humanity doesn't annihilate itself. That's kind of happening when Jack, the bartender's son, comes in. We learn he is going to be a college boy. He's the smartest little guy in town. He's off to college as long as the town can get together enough money for him to go and buy books and shit. And that's all being collected in a big mason jar that's just left out on the bar in the open for anybody to just grab.
There wasn't ever a point where Jack was on screen that I was not thinking that he was going to make a move at Tamir. He is a red-blooded American boy in proximity to a Tamir, and just look at Tamir. So I was definitely that snake sound effect whenever he walked in. I was like, okay, keep an eye on that guy.
Yeah.
Tamir.
The Vulcans are all living in an apartment together. In another direction I thought it would have been really fun for this episode to go was just 50s sitcom bits about their odd throuple lifestyle together.
Where are you going?
To the ship.
Why?
I need to go now. I Love Lucy is on tonight.
Did it seem to you like they kind of red paper clipped their way into the house? How did they get a house?
It happened so fast.
Yeah.
Like, they got jobs like sweeping up and mining, and suddenly, I guess maybe if you work for the mine, there's like laborer housing or something. Is that what it is?
I don't know, but I really craved a stitch of dialogue.
Would have been nice, yeah. So we learned Strawn is like a warp field engineer, and he's very, very disappointed that they've been stuck here for this long.
Yeah, catching shit by the fucking neighbor kids.
Yeah.
It sucks.
He's just done with plunging out toilets, and they're talking about, like, can we build a subspace transceiver? And he's like, no, I've thought it through. We just don't have the materials. There's no fucking way. And they start talking about, like, these newly atomic weapon and space launch capable humans, and whether or not they can handle all of this awesome power that they have recently come into.
Yeah. They are kind of on different sides of the whole is there hope for humanity argument.
Yeah.
Tamir isn't too hopeful about humanity's chances. Mistral is on the opposite end, and Strawn just wants to get the hell out of here. I don't think he has a strong opinion either way.
Yeah, he like doesn't even care to argue about it.
Faith of the fart. And you will never take the greatest gin alive. Ben would rather die.
What?
So much is made about the bomb being like the thing that represents whether or not humanity has a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Where in 1950s America, I was kind of hoping for Mistral to be like, and I've also been invited to something called the Klan. You know, like there are more issues with humanity in this decade than the bomb.
Yeah.
And it felt to me like, let's complicate the story a little bit more and make it less about just the one thing. It was kind of a craving that I had.
It feels like by setting it in a rural Pennsylvania community, you can kind of like get away from some of the like bigger geopolitical things.
Yeah, because what do people in Pennsylvania know about anything? It's almost as if they shouldn't be given the power to control what happens to the future of this country.
Wow. We're recording this at an interesting moment in October. It will be interesting to see how that take ages.
Yeah, let's find out together.
By the time this episode comes out. So Mistral makes an excuse about like needing to go get something from the ship. It turns out he's not actually going to the ship. He's running around with that bartender lady, and Tamir knows all about it. She sees this happening.
What I love about this sequence is Tamir is in the street with crossed arms watching Mistral get into this lady's car. And then we cut to after this date happens, and it appears as though Tamir has not moved from that spot. She's waited. She's waited the entire time.
Like through an entire baseball game.
Yeah.
Which they didn't even have the pitching clock in this era, so probably a long time.
This was a 5-hour stand that Tamir had to do there.
Yeah. We learn a little bit more about Maggie the bartender. Her husband and Jack's dad ran off to Phoenix and doesn't seem to be in a position to help out with the college fund. So Maggie is like open and available for Mistral if he'd like to make a move. And he does not really seem to pick up what she's putting down. She has to do all the leaning in and the planting of kisses.
Which is great. Good for Maggie.
Yeah. And it seems like the first time he's ever like done this. Like he didn't know about this. Vulcans aren't into kissing, I guess.
There's the moment in the car where Mistral doesn't quite know what to do socially. Like before the kiss, I mean. It's clear that their time hanging out is over. And with him not leaving the car, I think Maggie thinks, oh yeah, well, it's on. Let's go ahead and do that.
Mm-hmm. Cuts to a wide shot of the car and it just starts bouncing up and down on its suspension.
Yeah. Pleasant is how Mistral describes the kiss. Something that Maggie takes a little umbrage with.
Mm-hmm.
I did say very pleasant.
Before Mistral is like, no, that's actually the highest compliment people where I'm from could possibly call a thing.
Is it okay to give something an accurate review?
Yeah.
Maggie? Like, would that be fine with you?
Yeah. This mood, though, is shot when they notice Tamir.
Yeah.
Locked in place for 5 hours. And who boy, is she pissed.
So angry.
He'll never find a waveform discriminator in Doylestown, unless by waveform discriminator he means the female orgasm, and Doylestown is his thick Vulcan cock.
I thought his rebuttal to this was pretty interesting. Like, hey, we might be here forever. It's time that we start to like wrap our minds around that and get used to the fact that they probably did not receive our distress signal, and we don't have any way to send a follow-up one.
This is the moment where the chain of command starts to fall apart, right? Because this is like a shipwreck where the crew is on an island.
Yeah.
Like, do you still have to obey the captain? This is what Tamir is making the case for. Like, I'm still running the show. What the fuck are you doing? And Mistral's like, shipwreck, baby. I'm ready to fuck.
In the bar, we get a little like hang where Jack talks to Tamir. It did like feel like this would be the scene where he would like try to pick her up. And either his game is so smooth that it just doesn't read that way, or he's not trying to pick her up.
It kind of begins with a little bit of a jump scare, right? Like Tamir lights the candle. She feels like she's going to have some private meditation time. That's when Jack shows up. And it's
is
like,
she thinking about fucking that candle?
When she opens up her eyes, it's like, ugh. Oh, there's Jack there. And the thing about their conversation is that they really do have a lot of common interests, like astronomy being one of them.
Meditation?
Yeah. And when he invites her to see Sputnik, I mean, it's clear she's seen Sputnik before, but is she familiar with Spit Jack?
You're talking about a Hawk Tuah situation?
I think I am, yeah.
Spit on that thing.
Jack was the first Hawk Tuah.
Wow. If only podcasts had existed in his day.
I know. We got to cut over to the coal mine where we need to be reminded that this is where Mistral works.
Mm-hmm.
And coal mines are dangerous places.
Yeah.
And this one is no different. There's a cave in there, and Mistral manages to escape. But unfortunately, a bunch of people are trapped in there. So
I'm sure that it happened in an earlier scene and I just didn't notice it, but it was the first time I realized that they'd just given their real names to these humans.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm Mistral. How you doing? Nobody had any questions about that?
They're from up north or whatever. That's all.
Yeah. So anyways, he gathers at the ship with the other Vulcans and he's like, I need you guys to help me find a particle weapon so I can go back down into that mine and start shooting holes in walls so that I can rescue the miners, because their equipment is not going to cut it. Those men are going to starve or suffocate in there or whatever if I don't get them out.
Deer don't just wander through the mine that you can choose to eat or not.
Right.
That's not how it works down there.
They get in this debate about whether this is like a misplaced emotional reasoning by him. Like it's this smacks of compassion, and that's an emotion, and you shouldn't be doing an emotion given that you're a Vulcan. And he makes a pretty persuasive case, at least to Tamir. It feels like Strawn is just like never down to do anything with regards to the humans, but she gets on the radio and kind of like guy in the chairs him as he goes through the mine and like uses this phaser to punch holes in walls and rescue the trapped miners.
I was shocked that he found an opportunity to shoot lasers in a place where there were so many people.
He just like went in from another side of the mine, I guess, where nobody was there to see him.
So he blasts his way through and he finds a pile of the miners, and they're looking pretty messed up. And back on Enterprise, like we cut back to Enterprise quite a few times, just kind of for story react purposes.
What? The eel doesn't get it. I'm explaining to you because you look nervous.
At this moment, Trip and Archer are like, holy shit, Mistral, total hero. They should build a statue of that guy. I mean, not that they ever would, but you know what I'm saying? That guy sounds great.
Right, like holding his hand out, like looking off toward the future.
Yeah.
I gotta take a leak.
She says that he did have kind of like a heroic status in the town for a while, but they just hung out and kept toiling in their menial jobs for 3 more months.
Yeah. I mean, if you're Mistral, you probably get a couple of days off paid from the mine, right? You don't just go back to work the next day.
Don't know if you have read much about how mining companies are.
I mean, that seems reasonable to assume. If you save the entire operation,
Yeah.
I think you give Mistral a couple of days.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I'm guessing no. Based on other mine things that I've read about.
Lots of good things happened in 1950s America, Ben. I'm going to assume that that's one of them.
He's trying to catch a tune, and it's probably a minor.
3 months later at Carbon Creek, Tamir gets a message from a Vulcan rescue ship. Turns out they did pick up the distress call, and they're going to be there in 3 days, so get ready to get picked up.
Yeah. 3 days is such an interesting amount of time, right? It's not like we'll be there in half an hour or something. They have some time to think about it.
Jack is thinking you can have an entire relationship in 3 days. That's what I was thinking. Because when he rolls up on Tamir, he's sad that Tamir's leaving, but also sad that he's not going to college. Why? He can't afford it. And he might as well go work at the mine to earn more money until he has enough to pay for tuition.
I'm going to have black lung, and I'll never even know what it looks like for a girl to change clothes behind a white sheet that's really well lit from the back.
Yeah. Eavesdropping mom has heard this whole thing. She explains to Tamir that Jack is smart enough. He should have gotten into college. He tested great.
Yeah.
But the money's the problem.
The money is the problem. And it's real sad. So Tamir trudges back to the crashed ship and is like rummaging around in like a footlocker or something. She finds something in there. We get a scene of her riding on a train and then a scene of her in a city. And she goes into an office where like a rotund man is like very excited to receive her and her great invention, and she demonstrates Velcro to this man.
From the Velcro bag, she pulls out a fleshlight and puts it on his desk. And holy shit. Can you imagine what a fleshlight would do in 1957?
Imagine seeing the first fleshlight, you know? Like we accept them as just a texture of our reality now.
Of course we do. Accepted. That's what the fleshlight is. What a big old wad of cash she gets paid for this thing.
Cash money on the barrelhead for... It feels to me like the real challenge with the invention of Velcro is how do you manufacture it? I mean, I don't know anything about manufacturing, but like making Velcro seems like it's tricky, right?
This guy thinks he's got it figured out. He's on his way to wealth beyond the dreams of avarice. With this thing.
She comes back. The Vulcans meet up. Strawn is talking about how much he has hated being here. Overall, just like Yelp review for Earth is like 1 star. Nothing good to say about the place.
Frozen fish sticks? The constant threat of nuclear annihilation?
I mean, 3 months of plunging shit and taking shit from the neighbor kid will do that to you. I get it, Strawn.
But Mistral had a decidedly different experience. He loved it, and he is like, I think this place is really interesting. I'm going to stick around, and I'm going to document it. I'm going to watch these people go through all of the phases of development that they have ahead of them. Like, there's so much that's going to happen in the next few decades for these people. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think I'm going to stick around.
I mean, maybe I'm going to dump in Maggie, see what happens. See what happens there, right?
Yeah. How's he going to explain it to the doctors when the baby comes out with pointy ears, though?
God, I don't know. Maybe they're semi-pointy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Spock was full point.
He was, yeah.
But maybe sometimes they're not full point.
Yeah.
Maybe it just depends.
Maybe you get all kinds.
Yeah. They do like the operation to like, you know, cosmetically repair the ears to make them look standard issue human. And they're like, oh my God, this baby's blood is green.
This whole stay behind and fuck the bartender plan, that's not exactly going to fly with high command, right?
No.
That's what Tamir says.
Yeah. She's not in love with this idea, but the rescuers show up to get them, and it's her and Strawn, And Captain Tellus is like, where's everybody else? Like, there was the captain and then other guy on your ship. And she's like, well, the captain died and also other guy died. Adam, a lie?
A choice. One of the weird odd jobs that they got that we don't see any footage of is working at the crematorium. Very convenient, wouldn't you say?
They burned the bodies.
Here's a question I had for you, Ben. Wouldn't the sensors detect a Vulcan out there? Like still on the planet? What's up with that?
Vulcan life signs. Maybe it's like so far back in the past that the sensors aren't even that good on a Vulcan ship?
Maybe not. I don't know.
That big wad of money, Maggie finds it in the tip jar. I guess Jack is going to get to go to college after all.
I mean, or Maggie could spend it on herself and make Jack figure it out. He's an adult.
Like, she's heard a very exciting new sex toy has recently gone on the market, and she places an order for one, and she's like, what the fuck am I going to do with this?
She wants to be one of the first investors.
Wow, that's really putting your money to work.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that. So we got back to the future, and Trip and Archer are like, what about Mistral? Like, did he die on Earth? Did he get his dick wet with Maggie? Like, what happened?
And what happened when he did die? Like, he clearly died with his hat on, but someone like the coroner or whatever is going to take that hat off, right? Like, here's what you're going to do. You're going to do this, and then you're going to do that.
Right. Do you think that he necessarily had to go out the same way the T-1000 did? Like, he was like, I'm at the end of my life. I need to find a steel foundry with an open pit of molten metal to throw myself into so there is no evidence of my existence.
Goodbye.
And he lowers himself on a chain, but instead of the thumbs up, it's
the Logan Prosper.
How great is that?
Oh, that's solid as Sears.
Do. That's how this should have ended.
So they are totally incredulous, and T'Pol's like, haha, got you. You asked me to tell you a story. And they're like, another lie?
Another choice, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Damn, Captain. She put one over on us.
She goes to her quarters, and she gets out a big Velcro bag, and she pulls out an ancient fleshlight. How would she have that if this story wasn't true?
It's made of wood? Incredible.
Did you like this episode, Adam?
I really did. I think reflexively, whenever there's a let's go back in time style episode, I'm like, how is this going to get ham and cheesed? Because this is something that Star Trek loves to do, is go back to a specific decade, like the 50s or the 60s.
Yeah.
And make fun of it a little bit, and make fun of, in a fish out of water way, about what it might be like for future people to be in the past.
I feel like they've gone to the 50s and the 60s, the 80s and the 90s. Have they ever gone to the 70s? Is that the donut hole in the Star Trek time travel past?
Maybe we'll get there. Maybe Crewman Daniels will take us there one day.
I want to see like a time travel away mission in Nam, you know?
Yeah. Be fun. But this episode is better than that. And it's for one specific reason. There's a conversation about whether or not they're going to free the miners, you know, using the particle weapon. And there's an argument about, like, we cannot risk cultural contamination. And Mistral is like, what about compassionate contamination? That's what I'm writing for. And it's interesting to hear a very similar argument happen between Vulcans as we've seen it play out on board the Enterprise when it's time to make a decision like this. Do we fuck this past culture up by saving them, or do we lay back in the cut and watch them die? And it's just interesting to see that you don't have to be on a Starfleet vessel to have questions like that. It works for everyone.
Yeah.
I wish there was that moment where we cut back to Carbon Creek right before the credits, appear on screen, and you see like Vulcan skeleton, like partially buried Vulcan skeleton. Like, we're putting in a new housing development. Like, beep, beep, like, like Earth mover.
Yeah, and it tumbles out of the berm.
Dan, we got bones. Holy sh! What is this thing?
What the fuck?
Yeah, maybe that's a little ham and cheese, but I would have appreciated something like that. That's where my head went.
That could have been how we got to the 70s, you know?
Yeah.
But this guy's supposed to have lived for another like 150 years, right?
That's true. Yeah. What about you, Ben? Did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun. Fun, subtle throwbacks to other time travel episodes, like selling the patent or whatever for Velcro is a nice callback to inventing transparent aluminum.
Fun throwback to Horny's 80s movies.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah, if I do have one criticism, it's that the sheet doesn't blow off of the line and reveal everything going on behind it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, missed out on that for sure.
It's too bad. Too bad that they, missed opportunity or whatever. But other than that, I thought it was a hoot. So, yeah, I thought this was a nice episode. How about if we see if there's anything nice in the P1 inbox, Adam?
Let's see if we can see nipples on any of these P1 messages.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
Need a supplemental income.
Supplemental income?
Supplemental.
Supplemental.
Yeah, it's extra.
The interest alone could be enough to buy this ship.
Adam, our first P1 today is of a promotional nature. Goes like this. Are you so tired of trying to book a vacation you can't actually enjoy your trip? Does the 30 open tabs of ideas trigger your anxiety and you just want to scrap the whole thing? Hashtag road drop. Brian with BTGO or BTGO Travel is here to help. From cruises to European vacations to all sorts of trips between, he can assure you have the trip you want without the stress you don't need. He can even get you to STLV so you don't have to stay at the Rio.
That is a value proposition right there.
No kidding. Thanks to the Facebook FODs for helping with my logo. Visit btgotravel.com to book your next vacation and use code FOD in the contact box for a gift at booking. Wow.
Amazing. Travel agents aren't just for old people anymore. When I tagged a week in Italy onto our experience at London Podcast Festival, my wife and I actually used the services of one because of how Brian described this, like the thousands of tabs, all the research, all the pressure to like make every day interesting and special.
Right.
Felt like an enormous burden. And if you can work with a professional to just be like, hey, we got 7 days. We want to take some tours. We want to see some museums. We want to stay in a place that's in walking distance to the things we want to do. And here's our budget. Like, if you're going on vacation and you're already splashing for a vacation, I think it makes sense to like consider a professional. So
and consider a professional that's an FOD that rules. btgotravel.com is the website one more time. And yeah, I think this is a capital proposition.
Also, don't stay at the Rio. You don't have to stay at the Rio at STLV. No one has to do that. I was just reading r/Vegas about someone's experience at the Rio. Evidently, not every room has been refurbished. And
they're doing it in phases, from what I understand.
This person had a very bad experience in a unrefurbished room that a Benjamin R. Harrison probably stayed in previously. Ben, we've got a priority one message here from Jundy.
What's up, Jundy?
And it's to Ben and Adam. Their message goes like this. Just at the London show, got there too late to write down my shared embarrassment, so here it is in a P1 instead. The time when I was 14 in my bedroom and my brother walked in on me, singing along to the Enterprise theme. Thanks for coming to Blighty. Hope you come again, despite the financials making no sense. And thanks for all the great pod. Jundy knows what's up.
Yeah.
Took a fucking bath on that trip. And at the same time, extremely worth it to do a fun show at London Podcast Festival and meet a bunch of FODs. Like 2 straight years, we do a show at London Podcast Festival. The show's a total riot. The crowd of FOD is absolutely lit. And then we hang out afterwards for, I feel like, a period of time longer than the show itself. We were just out in the hall meeting FODs, hanging out, taking pictures. It was a blast.
We should just like make that a slightly more like, well, we're just gonna be at this pub down the street next time and make it a real hang. Because like, I don't need to stand in line. Let's just hang out with each other.
Ye old FOD. That's where we should do it.
Adam, our final P1 here is from Katie, and it's to Ben and Adam. Goes like this. My ex introduced me to TGG in 2020, but because of work and life, I never made it through TNG. I decided last year to watch every episode of Trek and listen to every episode of the pod along the way. Today, on the 17th of September, 2024, I finally caught up with Enterprise Season 1, Episode 19. It has been a rough year, so thanks for the much-needed serotonin. Enjoy the scarves. Damn, Katie, that's awesome.
We got your back, Katie.
That's a huge binge that you did. Mm-hmm. And I'm especially grateful that you stuck with the show, even though it was recommended by an ex. I'm sure that, like, a lot of exes recommending something to a lot of people might make them be like, nah, fuck that. I'm never going to listen to whatever that is.
Yeah, ours is more powerful of a force than that. That's pretty great.
Yeah. So sounds like whatever happened between you two wasn't so sour that it turned you off us. So I hope you don't mind if I say thanks to your ex for recommending us.
Oh, yeah. As Ben said, your ex did nothing wrong.
On your way out of a relationship, it is customary to recommend The Greatest Generation.
That's really spiking the emotional football, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is. If you'd like to spike the emotional football, head to MaximumFun.org/Jumbotron and set yourself up a P1 today. We really appreciate it.
Proceeds from Priority 1 messages go a long way in supporting the production of our show.
Hey, Adam.
What's that, Ben?
Did you find yourself a drunk Shimoda?
Incredible. Drunk Shimoda!
I mean, I know there's a moment on set when they're blocking the whole Mistral and Tamir change into a period-appropriate clothing scene, where they're like working it out. Okay, the camera's going to be here. You guys are going to be there. Here's the sequence.
Put a 5K over here so that the light is really, really perfect for this.
What happens here isn't on the page, though. There's nothing on the page that says Tamir gets changed, wiggles her hips out of her leather pants, takes off her leather top, and exposes, like, rock hard nips in profile. There's just nothing about that on the page.
Yeah.
And that's what we get here. And there's nothing more Shimoda-like than a decision like that. Bunch of fucking boys making a little sexy thing. Let's make it as sexy as we can.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very sexy. I mean, I'm just going to say, like, hot as hell, but unnecessary. That's my drunk Shimoda. Just that, how you get there.
Yeah.
How do you get from the page to that moment? That is a Shimoda. How about you, Ben?
I feel like I set a bit of a precedent with my Shimoda on last week's episode, and I'm going to follow that precedent. I'm giving my Shimoda to Tamir for being unnecessarily sexy, like showing that off, in front of everyone. Much in the way that Hoshi made excuses to get her top off in the last episode.
Hey, Ben.
Uh-huh.
Is season 2 of Star Trek Enterprise the sexiest season?
I mean, if you're into boobs, so far, yes.
I mean, we haven't even lubed anything up.
I know. A lot of sexiness going around.
Wow. Maybe that was the note in the off season.
Yeah.
Sexy it up.
Studio was like, more tits that you can show at 6 p.m.
Yeah. 6 p.m. tits.
Faith of the fart.
Adam, we got to talk about the next episode.
Oh, yeah. Tell me and everyone else the chances of tits.
Next episode is Season 2, Episode 3, Minefield. Whilst attempting to explore a new planet, Enterprise triggers a cloaked mine. While the crew deal with the resulting damage, it is discovered that another mine is stuck to the hull. To the hull. Hole.
Oh.
Hole. So that's that. Let me go over to gach.biz/game, and I will tell you if we have any modifications on next week's episode. Could be anything because, of course, at the Game of Buttholes, the Will of the Riker Quantum Leap, we are rolling a 100-sided die for this series, and that means anything could happen.
Yeah. Yeah, keep it on the table when you roll it.
Yeah, no shit. Adam, our runabout is starting from a position of square 35, right on the doorstep of a His Eyes Uncovered square.
You're required to learn as you play. Roll.
And we are also on the doorstep. In this roll, we narrowly missed hitting a Neelix's galley, jumping over it to square 53, Reg Ep next week.
Chula! Did I win?
Hardly.
How about that? And if it's a regular season 2 ep, probably gonna see something delightful. Maybe even a couple things, right?
Be great.
Horny season. That's season 2 of Star Trek Enterprise.
Yeah. Got to thank the Friends of DeSoto for supporting this program. MaximumFun.org/join. You know what to do. We got to thank Wendy Pretty, our intrepid producer and editor. We got to thank Bill Tilley, our temporal Cold War time consigliere. Rob Adler, directing our social media accounts at Greatest Trek. Go follow him. Fun stuff over there. Maybe you'll get to see one of Bill Tilley's trading cards featuring nips. It's higher likelihood this season than ever.
We've been doing a lot of streaming shows online the last couple of weeks. Bill and Wendy and Rob and you and me. We're up in the chat while we're watching those on the premiere dates. If you want to see a streaming live show, greatestgentour.com is how you can find out how to watch them.
Indeed. I think we've got 2 out at this point.
It's true.
And 1 left to come. So if you missed the first 2, you can still catch them.
Yeah.
They will be available through the end of the Second Contact streaming window. So go check it out, greatestgentour.com. Got to thank Adam Ragusia for our parody theme music and Dark Materia for the original Picard song. And with that, we will be back at you next week with another great episode of Star Trek Enterprise and episode of the Greatest Generation Enterprise where there's a couple of mines. I like tits.
Like a guitar from SNL sketch. No clothesline?
Make it so.
Maximum Fun, a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
Supported
directly
by you.